I often get questions from people who are on Teachers Pay Teachers, and they ask things that basically boil down to, how do you get motivated? So today we are here to answer the question, how do you get motivated? Now, I'm not talking like days where you're like, I don't feel like doing anything, but I'm talking more like when that day turns into a couple of days, turns into weeks, turns into months, or on the flip side, if you just can't seem to get yourself up off the floor to get moving on whatever it is that you're wanting to do. So we're talking more like long-term motivation. How do you like get up and get moving and get going? So if you're interested in that, then let's hop right on. People often ask me things about how you get motivated because they look at me and they say like, oh my gosh, you're doing all these things. How do I get to the point where I can, you know, I like can't even feel like I can get off the couch. So how do I get to that point? There's a lot of things we're going to talk about today. And the first thing is that I can't motivate you. Yeah, you clicked on a video that said I was going to motivate you. And I'm not going to, because the real truth is that you can't motivate someone else. You can do things that might fire them up, and I can say things that might fire you up for, you know, a few minutes, maybe an hour, maybe even like a day, but at some point that's gonna wear off. And to me, motivation is not necessarily how do I get up off the couch, but it's more like how do I keep going when things get hard. I am one of those people where on Monday, I have no problem getting up. I get out of bed early on Monday because I'm rested and I'm excited. But by the time I get to the end of the week, that's when it gets hard. So for me, you know, people talk it being hard on Monday to get out of bed. For me, it's always hard on Thursday and on Friday because I'm like, now I'm tired and I've been doing it for a while. So we're going to talk a lot about that and like that long-term motivation. We will talk about the getting up and getting started, but we're going to talk about the long-term as well. That's number one. No one can motivate you. Number two is that motivation is not like everything in the whole world. I said it. Motivation is something that is great and it is so helpful. However, it's not the full story, because a lot of times you look at people and say, wow, they're so motivated, but really you mean they have a really good work ethic. One of my favorite quotes is by Stephen King, and I don't want to butcher it, so I'm gonna go grab it because I know I have it written down somewhere. So it's, amateurs sit around and wait for inspiration. The rest of us just get up and go to work. And that's by Stephen King, who, if you're not familiar with him, is an author and he's written like 50 bajillion books. So that was from my bullet journal last year. And it's just, I think of that all the time. Like if you're sitting around waiting for something or someone to motivate you or for you to feel motivated, you're never going to make progress, because again, you might feel motivated for a few minutes, maybe even an hour, maybe even like a week, but at some point that's going to wear off. So yes, we're talking about motivation, but really I want to talk about motivation when it's like, I need to keep going, but I don't feel like it kind of motivation. So that like long-term motivation, long-term, how can I be Stephen King and write all of the novels and keep going? And he even told us the secret, just get up and start going. We're gonna kind of pivot. Instead of thinking about motivation and how do I get motivated, I want you to think about momentum. If you are one of my science teachers, holler at me in the comments. I am not, I teach elementary music, but you know, I appreciate you for all that you do. So hopefully I don't get this wrong. But momentum is different than motivation, and that momentum is the whole concept of an object in motion stays in motion. So what I want you to think of is, instead of like, I need to get motivated, we're not like going straight to the top of Mount Everest today. We want to just take like a couple of steps. We want that momentum, because after we take a couple of steps, the next day it's gonna be easier to take a few more steps. And the next day it's gonna be easier to take a few more steps. So instead of thinking like, I have all these giant things I need to do, I want you to think, what is one little thing I can do that's gonna give me momentum? One little thing or a couple of steps on Mount Everest every day is going to make a much bigger difference long term than, you know, like working really hard one day and then being like, ah, and then not working at all the rest of the time because you no longer feel motivated. So what are some things that can kind of propel you forward? What's that like momentum that can kind of just get you started? For me, when I have those seasons and those days, actually today was one of those. Full disclosure, I teach elementary music and we are in the school year 2020-2021. And so we got some information about our school I don't even know what to call it, format that is gonna require some changes, and honestly, it made me not very happy. And because of that, I found myself feeling very not motivated. In fact, I felt very not motivated to come make this video about motivation, which is kind of hilarious because at the moment, all I wanna do is lay on the floor and pull a blanket over my head and do nothing. However, I know that like long term that's not a very good thing to do. So instead of that, I looked for a way I could find a little bit of momentum, that I could find a little bit of things. So for me today with this video, I was like, okay, what do I actually have to get done today? What are, you know, some videos that I know I can get done? And then I just thought like, okay, I just need to film like these couple of videos. I need to do it today because I can't really do it any other days. And so I just started going through the motions. So I started setting up the lights and that helped. And I already had some stuff ready, so that helped. And that gave me enough momentum that I felt like I could sit here and do this video. Earlier today, I was already feeling it because of the whole situation. And I was trying to make a Google Slides activity for my kiddos that will eventually go on to Teachers Pay Teachers. And so I was trying to make that, and I just was like stuck on that initial thing, which you might feel. And so for me, that little momentum, that little thing I needed to get going was to plan out what I was doing. So I just grabbed a notebook and I started just drawing out boxes, and I was like, okay, here's gonna be a slide, here's gonna be a slide. I didn't worry about what order they were gonna be in. I didn't worry about specifics. I was just kind of like, I want this song here and I want that and I need this. And that at least gave me enough momentum to get going because now I had a starting place. And so then I was like, oh, okay, well now I just need to do this and like take it one step further. And I just need to take what I already drew and put it into my PowerPoint and, you know, all those things. And I ended up getting a whole bunch of stuff done for my kiddos today because I did that. So I want you to think of your momentum and how you can gain a little bit of momentum, gain a little bit of traction. With your momentum, you want to think of like one thing leads to another, just like I said. If you are like, I don't even know where to start, which I find is the biggest thing about motivation, is often that brain block of being like, I don't know where to start. And so if you can just start, then things will get a lot easier. So my suggestion is to just take a brain dump. So find a piece of paper or open up a Google Doc or whatever if you're super fancy, and just start writing down all of the things that you need to do for whatever it is that you don't feel motivated about. So if it's your business and you're like, I just don't feel motivated to do anything, then start writing down, okay, I need to make this blog post and I need to make this product and I need to make these thumbnails to post these products, and like start writing all those things down and then kind of like sort them out a little bit so that you have, you know, like, okay, these are related and these are related, and then pick one and find like the lowest common denominator. What is the easiest thing I can do? And start doing that. Have you ever heard the phrase eat the frog? I've even told you about eat the frog in my time management video. We're doing the opposite of that. Eat the frog is great when you're feeling great, but when you're not feeling motivated, you want the easiest thing to do because you just need to get going. So what's the easiest thing on that list that you can start doing today? So the next step would be to go ahead and just do whatever that thing is. So just pick one or maybe two, maybe three if they're really small, things that you can do right now that are going to help move you forward. That way tomorrow you can pick a couple more that will help move you forward. The next day you can pick a couple more that are gonna move you forward. But the point is that you are getting some stuff done, and then tomorrow you're not feeling the same way you're feeling today. Because if you can get started today, then tomorrow you'll feel like you've already made traction versus not doing anything today because you're stuck, and then tomorrow you're gonna feel the exact same way. We wanna change how we're feeling, which means we need to change our actions. So instead, pick a couple of things, and then tomorrow you'll be a little bit further ahead. And the next day you'll be a little bit further ahead, and just keep going. As you keep doing this day by day, it will get a lot easier. And especially if you can have like assigned times to make this happen. I talk about this all the time, especially if you are here because you're a TPT author. You need to have assigned times for when you're going to work. Just like Stephen King says. I'm sure that Stephen King is like, okay, these are the hours that I write, and I write every day at this time, and that's just what I do so that my books come out. Same thing for you. You need to have like, these are the times that I am dedicating to my business, because another big thing for motivation is people are like, I don't have time, which, can I be honest, is my least favorite comment in the whole entire world. Well, that and the question, what sharing settings do I need in my Google Slides resources to put them on TPT? The answer, by the way, is it doesn't matter. It'll take care of it for you. And the reason it bugs me is because I'm like, you could have figured that out on your own faster than it took for you to wait for me to answer the question. That drives me nuts. Another motivation is being like, I don't have time. So if you can say like, oh, I have this time, it's a lot easier to get motivated to be like, this is what I'm doing at this time. And then you can have that like set time. Even again, if it's like an hour a day, great. If it's like 3 hours one day and 2 hours on another day, that's great too. Just as long as you have some different things blocked out so that you can make some progress forward and you can continue to feel like you're moving forward. If you have, you know, like an hour here and then like 3 weeks later, another hour, you're never gonna feel like you're getting anywhere. Even if you are, you're still not gonna feel like it. So you need to do things that are gonna help you feel like you're moving forward. And as you do this, it's gonna get a lot easier because again, an object in motion stays in motion. So if you start getting used to doing a couple things, knocking a couple things off that list every day, then it's going to help propel you forward and it's gonna be easier. And then tomorrow it's gonna be even easier because you already know where to start. You already know what you're doing. You already have a little momentum and you're gonna have more momentum until you like aren't struggling with it as much. Because again, I was saying, I was feeling it today. So in making it easy, you want to first have some things figured out. So planning, my favorite subject. You want to go ahead. Don't say hi to the people. You know. Hello. Okay, continue sipping. So with planning, you want to know what you're going to be doing, where you're going to be doing it, like just all of those logistical things. Because if you're already not feeling like you want to do anything, and then you're like, but I don't know where to do it, or I don't know when to do it, and I don't know what's going to happen, then you're never going to do whatever the thing is that you're doing. You're never going to start that blog if you don't even know when you're gonna write the blog. You're never gonna start your business if you don't know where to sit when you're working on your product. So even if you just sit and think like, okay, I could sit at the dining room table at like this time and get some stuff done. Like that in itself is gonna make things so much easier. It's kind of like working out. If you are someone who has built a habit of working out, it can be really difficult and a lot of times you're not gonna feel like it. But if you know when you're gonna work out and what you're gonna do and where it's gonna be, it's a lot easier. I have a workout routine where I have like on Monday I do this and on Tuesday I do this. And the reason I do that is because if I wake up at 4:30 in the morning and I have to decide what I'm doing, like what I'm doing is getting back in bed. That's what's gonna happen. And so for me, I have to know what I'm gonna be doing, where I'm gonna be doing it. So like I know I always work out in the same place. I know what I'm doing each day of the week. I know what outfit I'm wearing. I always check the weather the night before. So having your time and place and activity planned out is gonna make life a lot easier. If you wanna make progress on your business, then again, go back to that list that you made of your brain dump of all the different things that you need to get done and start and like pick a couple, stick it on a day, stick it on a time, decide where you're gonna do that, how you're gonna do that, all those good things, get it all figured out in advance, and then go do it. It will make it so much easier because it takes so much of the guesswork out. You're not like, should I film a video, or should I write a blog post, or should I make a product, or should I post on social media? Because you know what's gonna win there? Instagram. But you're not gonna be posting, you're gonna be scrolling. And not gonna be making any progress, no momentum there. So what you wanna do is make sure that you know what you're doing before you sit down. It takes all the guesswork out of it. I always work on my business in the morning and I always make my list the week before so that I have, you know, like, okay, on Monday, this is what I'm doing. And that makes it so that in the morning when I'm tired and I really just wanna go curl up in bed, I don't feel like I need to because I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna come in my office at this time and I'm gonna look in my planner and it's gonna tell me exactly what to do and I'm gonna do it. And it just makes life so much easier to know what I'm doing, where I'm doing it, how I'm doing it, all those different things. Never sit down without a plan, because if you sit down without a plan, you're never gonna be doing the things that actually are making the biggest difference in your business. The other side of making it easy is to remove any friction. The more friction you have, the harder it is to get things done. You wanna remove all of the friction. I work out in the morning, and one thing I do is that I go running on Monday and Friday, and I'm gonna be honest with you, it is not my favorite activity. Really, the only reason I keep doing it is because I take my dogs and now my dogs really like it, and so I feel like I can't let them down. But I have some things that I do to remove some of the friction to make it nice and easy so that, even though I maybe don't want to, it's still like it's almost easier to do it than to not do it. So for example, I lay out my clothes the night before, and so then I don't have to think about it, because if I get up really early and I have to decide what I'm gonna wear, like it's just too stressful. I also got some new shoes that are slip-ons, so I don't even have to tie them in the mornings. And just little things like that could potentially be things in the morning, you know, like, oh, I have to tie my shoe and it's taking too long, and then it like comes untied, and like simple things like that. Anything you can do to remove that friction is going to help you to get some momentum. And a more businessy related example for this video, I already knew what the video was about. I had already planned out, like we already talked about, that I was going to film on this day at this time in this place. I already planned out like when my videos are coming out, so I know what I needed to film. I already had an outline because I sat down the other day and I outlined everything, so I like didn't even have to think about it. I basically just like came in, set up some lights, and turned on the camera and started reading off this thing, because I was like, I already know exactly what I'm talking about, even though I wrote this like 2 weeks ago, y'all. Like it's been a while, but I was like, oh, okay, that's what we're talking about. Any little pieces of friction you can remove are going to make life a lot easier. So maybe you need to make sure your laptop is plugged in. Maybe you need to decide ahead of time what you're going to do. Maybe you need to make sure that somebody is taking care of your kid. Maybe you know, maybe you want to make sure that your coffee is ready so that when you sit down, you don't have to get back up to go get coffee. All of those little things are not a big deal, but they can like just add some friction. And if you take them away, it's going to just be a little bit easier. Anything you can do to make life a little bit easier, it's going to be a lot more helpful. The next thing we want to do is make little checkpoints throughout the way. So if you have a big project that you're really maybe not wanting to do, one of the biggest things is because it just feels big, and a lot of times it is big, but the way to fix that is to break it down into smaller goals. So think of like little checkpoints you can kind of, I mean, literally like check off throughout the weeks, throughout the month, throughout the days, so that you make sure that you're on track for the long term. That's gonna help a lot, because if you have something really big that you're working on, for example, oh my gracious, when I wrote my book, The Happier Teacher Life, I thought it was never gonna end. Ever. I was like, I'm gonna be typing for the rest of my life. Actually, it wasn't even the typing, it was the editing. I was like, I'm gonna be editing for the rest of my life. It's never gonna stop and it's gonna take forever. But what I did is, instead of just looking at the whole book and being super overwhelmed about the fact that I need to edit it and edit it again and then hire an editor and then edit behind them, instead what I did is I made little checkpoints. So I was like, okay, I need to edit this chapter. And so like I broke it down that way. It made it a lot easier, because then I could go through and be like, oh, okay, well I've already, you know, checked off 3 chapters, versus if you're in the middle of your Google Slides document and you just keep going and going and going, it feels like you're not getting anywhere, even though you are. So whatever your bigger projects are, break them down into smaller things and then figure out how to check them off. If yours is more general, like maybe you have an income goal, or you're like, I want to start a Teachers Pay Teachers store, then your first step, by the way, is to download my free PDF all about starting a Teachers Pay Teacher store. Anyway, your second step would be to figure out what you need to do, and then make those into your little checkpoints that you're checking off all throughout the days and throughout the weeks. Just make a master list. You can make it in Trello if you want to be fancy. You can make it in Google Slides, Google Docs. I personally like my write-on notebooks, so that's what I use. But just write down all the little things you need to do that add up to it. One of the biggest things with this and breaking down your big goals into smaller ones is knowing whether or not you're gonna hit them, because you can see it. You know, if I can see I've been checking off everything, then at the end of the year, it's not a surprise if I hit it. It's also not a surprise if I didn't hit it. I'm not gonna get to the end of the year and be like, oh, I don't have any check marks with either color, but how did I not hit my income goal? Well, because I don't have any checks with either color, so I know that ahead of time, and I can either adjust or, you know, just be aware and then not be quite as disappointed, because like I know what's gonna happen before I get to the end of the year, because I've been checking it off all year long. This next one's gonna sound a little more like woo-woo is what I want to say, just a little more out there, but that is to keep your vision in front of you. And I know you're probably sick of this one. You know, people are like, remember your why, but it really is truly important. So whatever you're working on, whether that's a new business, whether that is a business you already have but maybe maybe isn't going as well as you want it to, writing a book, making a course, like any of those things that you're trying to get motivated on, you have a good reason for why you want them. So make sure that that reason is really clear. And when you start thinking like, oh, I don't want to do anything, start thinking about all those things that are not going to happen if you don't get up and get to it. So if you are wanting to build a business so that you can work less hours and stay home with your kids or not work at all, or if you want to write a book because you have a really, really, really important message that you need to give people, like those are really good reasons. So keep that in front of you. One thing that I like to do is to journal. I know this is gonna sound stupid, but I journal about like my vision. So I think like, okay, you know, this is where I'm headed and this is why I want to get there, and just kind of writing that out makes it seem more real, and it helps me to like kind of make plans, which means that I feel like I have to get this done because otherwise the plans are not going to come to fruition. And so it's like, if I don't do these little things now, then down the line I'm not going to get to where I'm going. So if you can keep your vision in front of you, it's going to make it a lot better. You don't have to journal about them. I also have a vision board I am a fan of. Mine's like up on my wall, so I actually see it every day. I don't suggest doing one that you're never gonna see, but I have mine up on my wall so I can look at it all the time, and it has pictures of places I want to go and things I want to do and just kind of like the life that I want to live. And it just kind of reminds me like, oh yeah, that's what I want. That's why I'm working on this. This is why I'm doing these things. And it just makes it so much more clear to me, and it just makes it seem more worth it. So whatever that is for you, you could like just get a picture of a place you want to take your family on vacation and frame it and put it on your desk. Like whatever you want to do, like do something to make sure that whatever it is you're looking for is in front of you. And if you can do something to make it a little more real, that would be great too. I, for example, well, I will very soon be needing a new car because my car is like 14 years old. And I kind of got my sights set on like one in particular that is more expensive than I normally would pay for a car. But it seemed like really far-fetched at first. And the more I thought about it, the more I, you know, kept it in front of me, the more it became more of a real thing. And I've gone and like done the calculations to figure out like how much money I need to put down and how much money I need to do, you know, how much money I need to have in order to do this. And I've already picked out the color, and like all those little details just make it seem much more real, and it makes it much better to me. The other thing is that once you really start thinking about these things, you'll see it everywhere. So once I decided on this car, I now see them everywhere, and I swear I never saw them before. And so it's like they're everywhere. That's what I consider to be the law of attraction. Like once you start thinking about something, then it kind of attracts that thing to you because you are more aware of it and you notice it more. Two more things I want to say. One of them is that if you don't love it, you are gonna have a really hard time doing it. You're not always going to love whatever you're doing, just like you're not always gonna love, you know, your job or even like your pets, because sometimes they're very annoying even though you love them. But you're not just, you know, you're not always going to be this magical place where like everything is great and you have rose-colored glasses on. But if you don't truly love something, you're gonna have a really hard time being motivated. That's one of the biggest things for me. And when people ask me these questions, this is always what I come back to, is like, I love what I do. I love creating curriculum, but more than that, I love helping teachers, whether that's with a blog post or a sub plan so that you can actually take the day off and stay home and get better, or it's, you know, a video, or it's just a little bit of inspiration, or it's just something silly, like all those things. If I can help a teacher in any way, like that lights me up. And even more than that, if I can help y'all, like teachers who are changing their life by, you know, starting businesses and selling their resources and just opening up different possibilities and really learning and growing as people, lights me up. Like I love it so much, and it lights a fire. Like if you read my, so I like have a journal that I write in, not all the time but often, and if you read them, you would probably think I'm an crazy person because I feel like all I talk about is business. But that's why, is because it's so exciting to me. It lights me up, and it's so exciting to me, and I love it so much. And so it's like, it's significantly less difficult to be motivated because I do love it. And that doesn't mean I'm motivated all the time. I told you today was particularly like bleh kind of day, but it means that, you know, it's not as hard as if I was like miserable. So you are gonna go through different phases and different seasons and stuff like that, but you really gotta love it. And if you really don't love it, you're not gonna do it long term. Like that's just, or you are and you're gonna be miserable. That's just kind of the reality of it. And the last thing you want to say, and the last thing I gotta say is that not just do you have to love it, but you need to find fulfillment in part of it that's not the money. Even with your business, you need to find fulfillment in something that's not the money, because you can't control the money and you can't, you know, there's things you can do to make more money, but you can't like 100% guarantee, like if I pull this lever, it's not like a vending machine. Like, you know, if I press this button, money's gonna come shooting out at me. It's much more strategic. There's a lot more trial and error that goes into it. And so you need to find fulfillment in something else. So for me, that's creating content. I love to create content. I will create content every day for the rest of my life. Like I love it. I love, you know, making Google Slides activity, lights me up, or making a video makes me so excited. I love blogging. Like I love every bit of content creation. I love it all. And I find so much fulfillment in that, and it makes me very happy to make a video or create a resource. Oh my gosh, you know the feeling when you like finish a really big resource? I did this the other day. I made what was it? Oh, I made a favorite spirituals Google Slides lesson. That thing, y'all, is like 50 slides. It's so freaking long, and it was a beast, but I was so excited when I got it done, because I was like, look what I made. Like this was a blank slide, and now look what it is. It's like this really valuable resource with all these different spirituals and lessons and videos and ideas and just all these different things that's going to like enrich the lives of children. Like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And so that is something that really pumps me up, is the content creation. And so you need to find whatever it is for you. It might not be the content creation for you, but it might be something else. As I've grown, another thing that really lights me up is being able to talk to y'all in the DMs, like on Instagram. People just, I'm in my DMs all day long talking to people on Instagram, because that just makes me so happy. I love being able to help, even if it's just like a quick question, as long as it's not about the Google Slides sharing settings, but anything else. And so I just love being able to chat to you. But I will also say, like, obviously I really couldn't do that when I started my business because I had no audience. So I had no one to talk to. So for me, it was always that content creation, that like checking off boxes, checking off lists. It lights me up. I love it. And that's, you know, that helps motivate me, and I love it. I talked for way longer than I anticipated, although I should have known that, because, you know, why would I not have? So thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please make sure you like and subscribe, and let me know all of your tips for motivation, and also let me know if you made it all the way to the end, because that's impressive. So have a wonderful, wonderful week.